Greetings, everyone. Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the latest episode of Monday Musings, where I talk about random stuff in my life and things that are going on. Could be political, it could be travel, it could be gaming, it could be books I've read, it could be who cares? It's lots of different things. If this is your first time tuning in, I would recommend that you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you get updates when new content is available. And of course, check all the links below to the Patreon page and all of the things that we're doing. Check out the playlists here on YouTube. It'll give you a better idea of the variety of things that are done here and beyond. Let me get a drink of coffee. Like usual, I'm pre-recording this, so I'm actually excuse me, I got hiccups. I'm actually recording this on March 7th, but it's coming out on March 8th. Take a drink. Coffee. One of the first things I wanted to talk about today was a film that was brought to mind recently, and I'm gonna get a hold of it so that my wife can watch it. So Chris and I watched recently, and I can't remember if I mentioned this in the previous episode, but I know we talked about it somewhere. It might have been in one of the brainstorming episodes. Um, we just watched the Twilight movies recently. Now, I've read the books. The books are pretty hard to get through. There are things that I like from the books, but by and large, I don't like the books because there's way too much of the teen angst romance. I don't know what to do. I like this boy, but I also like this boy. And, oh, he touched me. And, oh, Twitter pated. I don't go into that. I'm not a romance novel reader. I don't really go for that stuff. But the mythology that was created in the Twilight novels about the types of vampires there are and the mythology of the werewolf tribe and the werewolf history and the history of the vampires and all this other stuff. I found that to be fascinating, and there was some fun stuff in those books. So even though I'd give them like a 3 out of 10, they're still, I thought they were worth reading at the time. But the movies, I watched them when they came out because I had read the books and I was like, I'll watch them. And I found them to be okay movies. And they happened to be on Netflix recently. And Chris had never seen them. So we went through and watched all of the Twilight movies. And, you know, they were better than I remembered, but also had, like, we're sitting here as early 40s adults, and kind of like cringing at a lot of the stuff that was happening. But there was a funny video that I saw on TikTok, which was hilarious because it was a woman who was in her mid late 30s, and she said, she had a TikTok going, back when I was younger, it was Team Edward or Team Jacob, and now rewatching the movies as a mid 30s, I'm Team Charlie, and it was just a bunch of photos of Bella's dad, the police officer with his mustache, and him just being sexy in all these videos. And I was like, yeah, Charlie's a pretty good-looking guy, and he was a pretty cool character from the books. But that led me to thinking about and looking at various vampire movies and werewolf movies. So there's the Underworld movies, which if you haven't ever watched those are good popcorn movies. Um, and this spun around to last night. We were sitting on the couch, and John Carpenter's Vampires was on Netflix. And I told Chris, I was like, we got to watch this. It's a cheesy mid 90s vampire movie, but it's so cheesy that it's worth watching like as a popcorn flick to be like, I can't believe how bad this is. But you watch it for fun, and it's one of those, late night, let's have fun and watch a horror movie type thing. It's not really a horror movie, it's one of those John Carpenter movies. John Carpenter films are fun films. They're B films. They're not meant to be gripping award-winning features. They're just fun horror slash fantasy films, science fiction films. So we watched that. But this brought me around to Shadow of the Vampire. So if you've never seen Shadow of the Vampire, I would highly, highly, highly recommend you watch this film. There's a quote from this movie that has stuck with me all these years. So Willem Dafoe plays plays the primary character in this movie. He plays this vampire, and there's this scene in the movie where he's like sitting there, kind of drunk, trying to get drunk, and he's like, "I feed like an old man peas, sometimes all at once, and sometimes drop by drop." It's just this brilliant line, and Willem Dafoe turns out an amazing performance in this film. But it's got a pretty good cast: John Malkovich, Willem Dafoe, Carrie Elwes, John Allen Gillett, Eddie Izzard, Udo Kier, Catherine McCormack, Ronan Vibert. I mean, it's got a lot of people in this film, and it's basically written. I'm going to read the wiki description because it's actually a pretty apt description. So the film is a fictionalized documentary account of the making of the classic vampire film Nosferatu, directed by F.W. Murnau, during which the film crew began to have disturbing suspicions that their lead actor was more than just an actor, that he might really be a vampire. The film borrows the techniques of silent films, including the use of intertitles. I don't know how you pronounce it. Explain elided action and iris lenses. It was nominated for Academy Award for Best Makeup, and Defoe was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. So everything you need to know about the movie is right there. Basically, they're creating this classic vampire film, Nosferatu, and the director hires this vampire to play the actual vampire in the film. And over the course of the film, things start to happen that cause all of the other actors on the film to begin to realize, holy crap, this guy might really be a vampire. And it's billed as a metafiction horror film. I do not consider this to be a horror film. I consider it to be a dark comedy film. Um, it's quite amusing. I think it's well worth your time if you like B grade kind of cheesy movies. I think this is right up in there, but I think it's a little more of an artistic film. It's not meant to be like a B slasher film. This is definitely a thinker film. Um, but since we're on the vampire werewolf theme, I thought that was a film worth mentioning. Um, and it's like I said, John Malkovich, Willem Dafoe, Eddie Izzard turns a great performance in. Carrie Elwes. I mean, it's just got a good cast. It's just a really good movie. I am doing video editing while we're talking here. So let me make sure that I've got this ready to go. Next episode of Bloody Knuckles is going out right now. I'm going to hit next, publish. So look at that. Multitasking. All right. Back to Monday Musings. So that's what we've been doing recently is vampire and werewolf films. They have a lot of the Underworld films on Netflix right now. Where we live, obviously Netflix Mexico is a little different than Netflix in the United States because there's different licensing for down here. So, for example, Black Sails was on last year, and we got to watch all of Black Sails again. And my brother was very irritated because he's like, "It's not on my Netflix." And I was like, "Well, you have other things that I don't have access to." Like everybody in the U.S. got Stargate SG-1 on Netflix last year, and I don't have access to that, so I'm a little bummed. Obviously there's other ways to get your hands on it, but I was hoping it would be on Netflix so that I could watch it with native dubs and subs built in, so that Chris would have an easier time following along. We did just watch the Stargate movie again recently, and that was a result of Chris watching. She'd binged a couple seasons of Ancient Aliens, and so we had conversations about pyramids and aliens. So I literally told her, I said, "Hey, I got a documentary you're gonna want to watch that's very similar to the Ancient Aliens show that you've been watching, and it's kind of similar to some of those episodes that talked about like maybe aliens built the the pyramids and everything else." So we sat down and the movie starts, and she goes, "This isn't a documentary," and I was like, "Yes, it is. It's a documentary. I promise." So that was a good little practical joke, but when she'd seen it once before, probably 7 or 8 years ago when we were dating. I made her watch the movie, and I don't, she remembered parts of it, but it was also so long ago that it was almost like watching a new film. So um, she liked it enough. I have no doubt that she would like SG-1, which is why I was kind of bummed that SG-1 wasn't on Netflix Mexico. I should say Netflix Mexico. All right. What's going on this week? This week, obviously, we've got a lot of work going on with Project Dramond. Um, yeah, I'd love to talk more about that, but you got to subscribe to the Patreon page. I can say that Full speed ahead. If you've been checking out the TikTok for the dailies, um, Joey's working on concept art and the first scenes from the single player adventure game. Chris is full speed ahead with concept art. I've been doing chapter blockouts for the novel. I'm doing chapter outlines right now. We're also finalizing story elements for the main story. Just yesterday, I was working on the elves and all the elves descriptions, and now I'm going to be working. One of the next things to do is work on the backstory of the Elven Civil War, and what happened to split the elves up, and what happened during that war. We're also going to be diving into a little bit more of the history of the humans and how the quantum wars of several millennia ago wreaked havoc and destroyed the southern continent, which is why it's all wasteland now and why the humans came north, the remnants of humans all those years ago, and then what happened to create the rift between the humans and the elves. So I'm doing a lot of that backstory right now, which helps shape the world, and it's also helping to shape the rest of the world map as I continue through the world building episodes and creating the map. So if you want to check all that stuff out, there's some brief overviews in the brainstorming videos and the map making videos that go up here on YouTube. But of course, if you want the full details and access to the Google Docs, you got to subscribe to Patreon because that's where all the cool stuff is happening. That's where all the juicy details are. Um, as far as games go right now, I'm still, playing a lot of Lord of the Rings Online. I'm really having a lot of fun there. I say a lot. It's not a lot. It's maybe 10 hours a week. I play Mondays and Thursdays with Joey and his friend Tristan, and also Rack and some other people who have joined. If you want to join us, feel free. We're on the Laurelin server. Um, Primary sessions are Mondays and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central. Excuse me. But then I play my Lore Master one or two times throughout the week. I'm almost to the end of Mirkwood. I've got one more session and I'm done with Mirkwood, and then I'm into the Isengard expansion, and we're heading south with the Ring and working our way towards Rohan. And I played through this a couple years back. It's amazing content. Like there's this whole section when you're going down and you're going through the forest where the part where the Fellowship splits up at the waterfall. I forget the name of it now. I really can't remember it. I don't want to mispronounce it, so I'm not even going to attempt. But where the two statues are of Isildur and Norian, the falls and everything else, and you're going through the forest and you find what happened to Boromir, and it's at least from what I've seen of the game, and I've played up to like level 85. It's some of the best content that I've seen in the game so far. Is that whole section of the game as you're following in the Fellowship's footsteps. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to that. Um, the Lotro Cooking in Real Life series obviously still going on. We've got 5 episodes already planned out. Um, and we've got the Hobbit toast with mushrooms, pot of beans, mushroom chicken pie, mushroom soup, and a chicken soup, which is more like a chicken and dumpling soup or a chicken and noodle soup. I promise you it tastes way better than the soup that Eowyn gave to Aragorn in the film. Uh, that's a brilliant scene, and there's a couple people who are making jokes about it on TikTok and doing reenactments of that bowl of soup and just like gagging on the whatever those chunks of things were. Um, Great scene. Anyway, looking forward to continuing that show as well. Um, what else? Last week I had a really good sit down with the owner and CEO of the Tbex Conference, which is where Chris and we did a lot of stuff with them. We did five, four or five presentations for that conference, and we've gone on to work with many of their partners over the years, such as Costa Brava Spain, Fulcher Ireland, um, Don George, who's a travel writer and editor at large for National Geographic. Um, and we may be doing some stuff again with them in the future. A lot of stuff's up in the air for the end of this year because there's still 3 conferences planned this year, but things got pushed back from last year to this year because of COVID, and obviously COVID is still going on, so it remains to be seen if these things are all going to happen yet. So we're just all kind of waiting in the wings to see. Again, we're still waiting for our vaccinations. Um, unless the schedule changes, I should be able to register at the beginning of May for mine. I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely. But even here, we're doing we're doing what we can, and knock on wood, we've stayed healthy. But we're also cautious. We're not the only places we go are the grocery store and the park. And actually, like Chris she needs to go to the dentist. Like um, one of her fillings fell out, and so she's needed to go get that filled. And she's been avoiding it because she doesn't want to go to the dentist because we're conscious of the risks of COVID. And it's not a life-threatening thing. It's an annoying thing, and it's causing her some discomfort. And she's been debating like going finally because it's been so long now. It's like, okay, I don't want to have to wait until July when I get vaccinated to be able to go to the dentist. I ought to just find a good dentist and go. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, everybody's taking enough precautions. I know a lot of people who have gone to the dentist even during these crazy times we're living in. So we'll see. But I am looking forward to travel again. Um, yeah, it's time. We're gonna be doing some. We were supposed to do content for Marginal Boundaries in February, and we didn't because we were busy with other stuff. Um, yeah, that's we got a new video. We're gonna be doing a video about renting in Mexico City, and then we're gonna be doing. I'm gonna finally go back and cut video footage from our trip in Ireland, which was the end of 2017. Because I did what I was contractually obligated to do, but then I've got another 100 hours of uncut video footage and drone footage that's just been sitting there for like 3 years now, that I never did with because I went, at the end of 2017, we moved to Mexico City and I went full time into game dev. Um, and I've got some spare time on my hand right now. Not a lot because Project Dramond is taking up a lot of stuff, but I think I might take a couple hours on Sundays here and there, and over the course of March, put together a good Ireland video from some of the road trips we took because we did the whole Wild Atlantic Way. That was a 14 or 15-day road trip with the drone and all the cameras, and we started at the very bottom. We did the entire Wild Atlantic Way, so we started at the bottom on the southern coast and worked our way all the way up the western coast and all the way up to the north, and then went into Northern Ireland, um, before we came back into Dublin and dropped off the car. And then I think we spent, how many days did we spend in Dublin at the end of that trip, Chris? Do you remember how many days we spent in Dublin at the end of our trip? 3 or 4 days? Yeah, yeah, 2, 3 days. Maybe it was only 2 days. I think it was like 3 days, maybe four. Yeah, because we got a nice little apartment downtown and we stayed there, I think, for 2 days. And then we got a hotel at the edge of the city by the airport for the last night. Oh, that's right. Yeah, we were scheduled to go on a tour, and then they canceled the tour. I don't even remember why they. Yeah, she made me get on a tour bus, and we sat on the top, in the open deck, and it was freezing cold. Like, and she's usually the one who's hot, and I'm like, or excuse me, I'm usually the one who's hot, and she's always cold. So I'm usually the one who's like sweating and uncomfortable while she's got a sweater on. And she wanted to go take this tour bus and like do the open air tour bus, so we did, and I froze my butt off. And she was I don't know what was going on that day, but she was completely comfortable, and I'm literally, just hunkered down in the. Well, I had my jacket too, but apparently your jacket was better than mine. I'm getting cold just thinking about that tour bus. Um, yeah, so there was a tour that got canceled at the end of that. We were supposed to go on a press tour, and so we ended up having a couple extra days in Dublin. So we just went and explored on our own. And we saw Nick Frost, I think is his name. Um, yeah, Nick Frost. Was like literally we were at getting breakfast at this place, and he came in and it was getting a coffee and a bagel while we were there, and it was just like it was cool. I don't ask for autographs, and I don't take selfies, and I don't take pictures of celebrities. Um, um, but he was there. It was cool. And I know, like, I've been on enough flights now between here and Austin. Like, I've been on a flight in business class with Giancarlo Esposito. I think I've seen him 2 or 3 times now on flights. And then also, what is this guy's name? I'm trying to think of it before I Google it. He's from Texas. He was in season 2 of Narcos. He's got a really weird name, and I'm blanking on it, which makes me feel stupid. Um, he's been Godless cast. I remember he was in Godless and also Fargo. Scoot McNairy. Um, I've seen him on a couple flights between here and Austin when he was filming Narcos down here. So, but I don't ever ask for autographs. I don't bother him. But it's just always cool. For me, I like to just sit back and watch, because they're just normal people like anybody else. But a lot of people put this emphasis on celebrities and actors, like, oh, they're these magical beings, and it's like, no, they're just people doing a job like anybody else. And every time I've seen them on planes, they're usually studying scripts. They're usually reading scripts and prepping for whatever role, or they're reading something that was sent to them by their agent. Um, Nick Frost was the exception because he was getting coffee and a bagel. Anyway, that was Dublin rambling. Um, what else can we talk about this morning? I don't have any topics. Like, I didn't write anything down for my topics today. So let's check Discord and see what we can see. Max Shrek, Shadows of a Vampire. Let's check Twitter real quick. Oh, I know what I can talk about. Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is coming out soon, soonish. I'm yet I'm torn about whether or not I'm going to spend $60 to get that for the PlayStation because I don't want to do it on the PC. Honestly, I really enjoy the PlayStation. Um, I'm really wanting a PS5. I was waiting until summertime, and I'm still waiting. But the issue that I'm seeing now is like the demand for those and the resale crap is really annoying because even here in Mexico, like they're available, but you're gonna pay $400 to $700 more than what they retail for, which is, at that point you're paying double, and it's like it's not worth it to me. My PS4 is great. I'm gonna, you know, it's working fine. They're still putting games out for the PS4, but I would like to have a PS5 ahead of all these cool games that are coming out, like the Harry Potter open world game, the next God of War, all these other things. But at the same time, all of these games have gotten pushed back because of COVID. So I'm also kind of not stressing, but I'm also slightly stressing about, I wouldn't like. And this is also the first time I'm actually debating, honestly, I'm debating getting an Xbox Series X and a PS4. And the reason for that is because they're still putting out exclusives on. And here's the thing. Technically, Xbox exclusives aren't exclusive to Xbox anymore. They're Xbox and Windows. But the thing is like the older I've gotten, the better consoles I've gotten. And the more I realize that I really enjoy consoles, and with the ability to do remote play and everything else, and set up, to where you can stream your games through your PC and everything else. I don't play that many PC games anymore. I play Lord of the Rings Online because it's a PC only game. But honestly, like Elder Scrolls Online, I originally had it for the PC, and then eventually I got it for the PS4 because I would prefer to play it on the PS4. Final Fantasy 14, same thing. Played it on the PC, prefer to play it on the PS4, and that's because these games have controller support. And as I've gotten older, I don't really like to sit here and do WASD stuff. I like to I like to be able to kick back on the couch and just like sprawl out and not be sitting here at a chair like, I'm not saying I have a comfortable chair and it's comfortable at my desk, but I prefer gaming on the big screen with the console and just laying there and lounging. So anyway, I digress. Mass Effect Legendary. I don't know. Like I love those games, and they have a very important place in my mind in the hierarchy of games that I've played over the years. But at the same time, I'm also looking at the Legendary Edition, going $60. Like, if it was $40, am I really bitching about $20 difference? I'm really not. I'm being silly at this point. I just don't know that I want to pay $60 for something that I already paid 60. I paid $60 for each one of those games, 50, $60 for each one. So, cumulatively speaking, I've spent a good chunk of change. I've spent $150 or so, um, supporting BioWare and buying those games over the years, and so I'm kind of torn on whether or not I want to worry about it. And I'm thinking what's going to end up happening is I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait for those games to go on sale. And whenever the Legendary Edition drops to like $30 or something, I'll pick it up then. Because here's the thing, I paid face value for Final Fantasy VII Remake when it came out. Had fun, without a doubt. Good game. Paid $60. It just came out free this month. I swear it's been only like less than 6 months since it came out, and it's already on PS Plus, and I have a PS Plus subscription. So this month it was free for the PS Plus subscription, and I've seen 3 or 4 games that I've bought for face value now that have come out, and I'm at the point now where it's like, unless it's a game that I really, 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 really want, I'm not gonna spend the money on because I'm happy to get the 2 or 3 games a month that you get for free and just go from there. Uh, when you're talking remakes, I should say. New games, a little less so. I'm more than happy to pay face value for a brand new game. God of War, well worth every penny. Red Dead Redemption 2, worth every penny. Spider-Man, worth every penny. These are games that I paid face value for, and absolutely. Like, I waited 2 or 3 months for NBA 2K21, and I'm so glad I waited because it came out. I was still getting plenty of enjoyment out of 2K20. 2K21 came out like 2, 3 months later. It dropped to like 30. It was either 35 or 40. I don't know. I got it for a good discount. It was like 20, $25 off. And I picked it up when it went on discount. It was like, I don't feel compelled to buy games when they first come out anymore, especially when it's a remake of something I've already played in the past. But I have to admit, I would like to play the Legendary Editions. I think it would be cool to go back and re experience that, but I don't think I'm going to stress too much about it. But I do want to get it for the PS4. I'm not going to worry about it for the PC. The only game I'm playing on PC right now is literally Lotro. I'm looking at my catalog right now. Um, I have other stuff, you know. I regret buying Star Wars Squadrons for the PC. I wish I would have bought that on the PS4. Whatever. I do have some stuff on here. I have Star Wars Squadrons. I have Pillars of Eternity. I have Divinity Original Sin 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. So I should take that back. I am also playing Baldur's Gate 3 on PC because that's the only thing it's available on right now. Like the early access was only through Stadia, Steam, or GOG, and I prefer GOG over Steam, so I bought it through GOG. Um, but yeah, I much prefer the PS4 these days. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just getting older, and I think the graphics have gotten so good. Um, I'm I prefer consoles these days, especially now with voice chat being so easily accessible and everywhere and available. Um, I see no reason to play. I used to be PC preferred, but yeah, that's changed over the years. So, are there any other games that I'm really looking forward to? Not really. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the PS5 games, um, like God of War, uh, the Hogwarts game, that Harry Potter open world. But I also really want to play the new Halo game, but it's pushed back to next year. So I'm not really stressed about. Okay, I'll get a PlayStation 5 when it becomes available, and then next year when I know that Halo is going to be coming out, I'll probably buy the Xbox X Series. And the nice thing about not being too stressed about getting one of the next generation consoles is that I should be able to get the memory upgrades by the time I go around to purchasing mine. There'll be the new versions available with all the memory upgrades. So we'll see. I'm keeping my eye on things. I am on the wish list for all the consoles, and if they do come out on Amazon, I'll pick them up. But I'm not too stressed about it. Get plenty of enjoyment out of Lotro. I have no plans to stop playing that. That's going to be my go-to game for all of 2021. I get 4 days a week enjoyment out of that game, and then splice that in with some console stuff. Yeah, and lots of work on Project Dramond. I'm going to plug that again right now, everybody. Make sure to check out the Patreon page for Project Dramond. if this is your first time tuning in. And if it's not your first time tuning in, why haven't you signed up for Patreon yet? Why aren't you over there being involved, getting down with what we're doing with the tabletop game and the new novel and all the other things we're doing? Um, I am currently working on the Dragonlance Chronicles read through, which I started last month. It's mostly R&D because I'm really looking at how they did omnipresent, or excuse me, omnipresent, omniscient third person style, because that's the style that I'm working on for the new novel. I expect I will probably start working on the novel by the end of the month. The month of March was mostly about getting all of the prep work done. So we're getting all the world lore and world history written, or at least drafted out. We're getting the bulk of the world map written so that I know exactly what's going on in the present day and what does everything look like today. I did the main character breakdown, I want to say 3 days ago. So we know who the main characters of the book are. There are 6 main characters for now. I might add to that or I might subtract from that, but that's what we're starting off with. I don't know their names yet, but I do have a very rough idea of who they are, what race they are, and their rough personalities. Names will come later. I'm not too worried about names just yet. That's a later on thing. And I've already outlined the first few chapters. And then over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to be finalizing world history, world lore, and then the chapter outline. What is the story of that first book? And one of the benefits if you're signed up is you get to participate in that and provide feedback and commentary on all this stuff as it unfolds in Google Docs and over on Patreon. And you get to say, hey, what about doing this or what about doing this? Like, I really appreciate that Hemvar was like, hey, because we were talking about the area of where the brownies came from and, you know, did they put a magical barrier up? What happened with that? And he was like, what if you did it like the Elcris in the Shannara novels? And I was like, I hadn't even thought about that. Like, that's a great piece of feedback from a book series that I haven't read those books in 20 years. And so I had completely forgotten about the way that, the tree protects, and all this other stuff. So I was like, that's a really cool idea if we had this barrier and it was deteriorating and that's what's causing the issues and all this other stuff. So we're still figuring that out. Those brainstorming sessions happen on Wednesday nights, and then we publish those episodes for people to take a look at. And of course, the daily updates that we do on TikTok. Mostly those videos are stuff that I'm working on. At least my TikTok is anytime that I do work, whether it's map building or work on the core novel or the core rulebook, and then anything that Chris does with concept art, we show snippets out. And then Joey has started to share snippets out of the work that he's doing on the single player adventure game. So that's been fun. And also going back and watching some of the old videos for the King's Quest series. And I actually have Quest for Glory 5 installed on my computer. I bought the QFG pack from GOG like 2 years ago, and I went through and I played 1, 2, 3. I don't think I finished 4, but I did 1, 2, and 3. And then I did like a partial playthrough of 4 and then got sidetracked and never went back to it. But then I installed Quest for Glory 5 the other day just to see what a more modern version of that old point and click looked like so that I can get a better idea of some of the things that we can put together. So that's been a lot of fun. I'm having fun with that. But that's what I'm reading right now. I don't have plans to read anything else. I'm actually inspired. Hemvar's been reading. I think he has a blog, and I remember correctly, he says on his blog that he's reading through every single novel in the Forgotten Realms, which is a lot of books. And I own a digital version of all of the Dragonlance books. Um, and I have favorites from there. I haven't read all of them since I was in my early 20s. I have reread the Dragonlance Chronicles a couple of times, as well as I always forget the name of the next series, which is the Time of the Twins books. Um, but right now, I'm focused on the first three books in the trilogy that spawned the Dragonlance saga, because I really want to see how did that kick off, um, and how can I kind of mirror that with my own storyline. And I still come back to liking Dragonlance more than Forgotten Realms. That's just me. Um, I like the world. I like the races. I like the pantheon of gods a little bit more. It's weird because I do like the Icewind Dale trilogy is up there with one of my favorite. Like, even though I'm not a big fan of Salvatore, um, as a writer, not as an individual. I think he's a great guy. But as a writer, eh. But the Icewind Dale trilogy is just brilliant fantasy work. And I love those games. The Icewind Dale games are great, and I have a fondness in my heart for Icewind Dale and the lore around Forgotten Realms and that section of the Forgotten Realms. But I much prefer Dragonlance. That's just me. I don't know. Like I said during one of the previous episodes, that could change if I ever decide to go back and reread all the Forgotten Realms books. But there's a lot of books, and I don't have time for that because I'm doing other books right now. So, all right, we're 35 minutes in. Is there anything else I should talk about? Let me just scroll through my Twitter feed and my Facebook feeds and see if there's anything that strikes my mind real quick. I'm thinking not. Incarnate, I'm having a lot of fun with that on um, working on the world maps. Yeah, I don't think I got anything else today. Nothing much. Oh, I can say um, some exciting news coming down the pipeline soon in March. I'll be announcing this officially when I can. Um, but it is related to the travel project I'm working on, Hidden Compass. I got some really exciting news coming down the pipeline about that. Um, so we'll talk more about that when it happens later in March. As far as everything else goes, yeah, just stick around. Make sure that you sign up to all the social media channels, um, and sign up here on YouTube if you haven't done so already, so you get all the updates that I do here. I think that's going to be it for this Monday Musings episode. I have been debating getting back into the Mondays in MMORPGs series, with co-hosts. I haven't talked to anybody yet. I have some people in mind that I'd like to talk to about that. Um, but I'm not sure what my time, I have to make sure that that would work out in schedules and everything. But it would, probably be something that's recorded. If we record it every week, groovy. If not, it might be every 2 weeks. I'd like to do it every week, but it's going to depend on other people's availability. Because this thing is like, I can, like, today is a Sunday. Like, I'm recording this, even though this is a Monday episode. This is March 7th. It's not quite 10 a.m. So I've been up since 6 o'clock, and I got up, I streamed, I did the episode for the read through of today's Bloody Knuckles anthology. I'm pre-recording this episode. I've done some work on Project Dramond, and I've got another recording that I'm doing after this. So typically for me, my Saturdays and Sundays, unless I'm doing stuff with Chris, because we don't go anywhere on Saturdays and Sundays, because these are the days, like if you try to go to the park on a Saturday or Sunday, these are the days when all the families are there, and it's just too high of a risk with COVID going on. So Saturdays and Sundays are the days that we stay home, and don't go for runs or anything like that. We did go grocery shopping this morning. We did that also as well. But traditionally, I do all my recording on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'll do it in the early mornings leading up to noon. And then once noon hits, the rest of my day is for gaming, reading, watching Netflix with Chris and stuff. Um, and if I can find people who can do it at the same time, then it works out that way. Then we can pre-record all the episodes on like a Saturday or Sunday. But I have enough stuff going on Monday through Friday that I can't dedicate to recording episodes of Mondays and MMORPGs during the week. I would have to do that on weekends. So we'll see. I got some people in mind that I want to reach out to and talk to about that. So you'll know who you are because you might be hearing from me sometime in March once I iron out my schedule. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, everybody. See you in the next episode, and hopefully you sign up here on YouTube and also Patreon, and TikTok for daily updates.